Hello, my name is Samantha Whelan-Kokis. Welcome to my home in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm a teaching artist for the National Arts Centre of Canada, and this is the first video in my 4-part video series on invoking the imagination through the arts for students of all ages. In this series, we are going to look at how we can invoke the imagination of others, how we can create an environment that supports the discovery of individual artistic voice, how we can help people articulate their ideas in and through an art form, and how we can develop our students' personal relationship to the arts. In this first video, we are going to be exploring soundscapes and musical patterns as a way of doing this. I hope you enjoy. Invoking the imagination with storyboards and soundscapes. What does that look like? This year, I was invited to be the virtual artist in residence for a Festival of the Sound at Perry Sound, and tasked with how do you go and invoke the imagination of students that you can't physically be with. So I decided that a really great idea might be to use soundscapes and ask the students to take a look at their lives and kind of reflect on what's been going on during COVID. And so to follow musical patterns, I decided we would create a piece that was A, B, A prime. So we would look at the A section, which would be a day in their life at school before the pandemic. Then we'd look at the B section, which was a day in their life at school during isolation, when they couldn't go into the school. And then A prime, a day in their life at school when they were back at school, but the pandemic still was happening. And so I was tasked with figuring out what they could create with, being that they weren't allowed to sing and they weren't allowed to use instruments. So I thought they could use body percussion. They could use paper, because paper is a wonderful material that has a lot of movement to it. And they could use technology. Everybody's got a phone, and if they didn't have a phone, their teacher would have a phone. So the way I set up soundscapes is kind of like a storyboard, where I have the students create pictures that go with the sounds that they want to create. And then they add those sounds with whatever materials they have. So for instance, in this one, the clock, they ended up using a cell phone. And then to create the sound of this, I said you could do something like an ostinato where you repeat a pattern. So they did a using paper and their voice, and then a car, and then et cetera, to create the A section of their piece. Then they created the B section of a day in their life during isolation, where you can see things kind of changed a little bit. She was sleeping at the beginning, and then there was some meditation that happened, and some eating in computers, et cetera, and creating sounds that went with each one of those pictures. And then the A prime section, a day in your life in school during the pandemic. What is the same and what's different? And so add that in, and then add all of your sounds as well. After this process, we asked the teachers to help us by recording each one of the soundscapes that the students had created. And we took those videos, we took the sound off of them, and then we visited the class. And this is where invoking the imagination came to life. There were actually 2 of us, teaching artists, that came into the class, and we listened very carefully to what these students had created as their soundscape. And to be honest, what we got back, I was very touched by. I mean, it was really an honoring of this time in history and kind of a time capsule that they made. And so when we heard the piece, we came in and we experimented with them, and they could add us into the soundscape. They could add the piano. My friend Mark Lamacher played the piano, and they could add me on the trumpet. And we created this beautiful soundscape that went with their pictures and with the sounds that they created, but also added in professional artists. And I'll tell you, if you want to invoke the imagination of people, get them caring about what they've created. So give specific instructions so they know what they're going to do. And then they start to really care about it. And they want to add more, and they want to learn about dynamics, and they want to learn about pitch. Should it go higher or lower? And where should the crescendos and the diminuendos be? As soon as it becomes theirs, something very magical happens, and you've truly invoked their imagination. So what was fascinating about this residency is after we created these soundscapes, we then had this template, and we had to do a virtual performance after it was over. So we started by coming in as teaching artists and invoked the imagination in these students. They created this piece, then we collaborated together, and we ended up creating this new composition. And then because Mark Lamacher, the pianist I was working with, composer, was so inspired by what the kids had created, he composed a piece for trumpet and piano that was inspired by the students' composition. And it's extraordinarily beautiful. And I'd like to share it now with you. So the culmination of a really amazing session with students and teaching artists, where we invoked the imagination so much that process actually inspired yet another composition. And I think that's when we know it's successful. I would say all the projects that I'm going to talk about, it's when the students get so excited and there's that moment. And I'd almost call that moment joy, but sometimes it's electricity. It's joy or it's electricity, and it starts to permeate in the air, and it gets messy, and usually it's really loud, and some of the teachers don't love it too much because everybody's getting excited and the energy just kind of ramps up in the room because people have bought in. It's very inquiry based. The people who are creating are asking a ton of questions. They're trying to get to the answers. And then when we pull it all together, it's so special and so profound that this last particular project inspired this piece that you're about to hear. So I hope you really enjoy this next piece by Mark Lamacher. It's him playing on the piano and I'm playing the trumpet and the flugelhorn. Enjoy, and I look forward to seeing you again in my next session on invoking the imagination. I hope you enjoyed listening to Perceptions Before and During, accompanied by the beautiful artwork from Miss Morehouse's grade 5-6 class. In my next video, video 2, I will be talking about a project I did in 2012 with my co-producer Ross McIntyre in a high school. The name of the project was From Blue to Red, and it was a children's hardcover book and ebook about the first mission to Mars by humans. The students did such a good job with this project that this book ended up winning the 2013 Alberta Book Publishing Award for Best Children and Young Adult Book of the Year. It was fantastic, and I hope you'll tune in to watch that video and how we invoked the imagination of those students. Thank you again for watching, and if you would like to leave some feedback or maybe some questions in our comment section, we'd love to hear from you.